time you're driving through Cambridge on Route 15, have a look at Vermont's newest historical marker, which honors the GAR, the Grand Army of the Republic. Today we'll meet a man who organized getting this memorial put in place and why marking history is important. Good afternoon, and thank you for stopping by Across the Fence. I'm Keith Silva. We've all seen those historical markers on the side of the road, but if you're like me and you don't often stop to read one and find out what history they commemorate, you're going to want to watch today's program. We hope that we can change that attitude, and we'll learn about the dedication and interest that it takes and the effort to mark history. Joining me to talk about historic markers preserving the past are Liam McCone, a longtime resident of Cambridge, and Stephen Perkins, who is the executive director of the Vermont Historical Society. Welcome to both of you.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for
Thank you for coming on. Liam, let's start with you. What is the Grand Army of the Republic?
The Grand Army of the Republic was the largest of the Union veterans organizations. There were a number of them, but this was the one that was most accepting to all ranks and races even of people who served in the Union forces. There were about 1.5 million men who served in the federal forces during the Civil War that is officially called the War of the Rebellion.
Okay.
About 1 million of them survived. There was quite a few casualties in that war, and they organized soon after the conflict ended in 1866 as the Grand Army of the Republic that was the largest of the Union veterans.
So a veterans organization for the Civil War, when we talk about the Grand
Correct.
Army of the Republic, that's what we're talking about. We were talking before, it takes a lot of perseverance and dedication to do something like this. Why do it?
Well, I thought that most people drove down Route 15 and some of them would probably puzzle over the designation on the highway of the Grand Army of the Republic Highway.
Right.
And I've got an interest in history, particularly in the Civil War era, and I've worked closely at times with Steve Perkins and the wonderful exhibits they have and archives there, and researched this and put in an application to have a marker, a historical marker, to explain who the Grand Army of the Republic was and why this particular highway had that designation.
Steve, as a historian and someone who safeguards Vermont history, why are markers like this so vital?
I think they're very visible, and they mark a place, and I think place is really important, especially to us Vermonters. We love our place, and when you can tie history that happened in your own backyard, I think it makes it much more relevant, and it makes it very real to the person that lives there or the visitor who's driving through.
On our program, we often talk about citizen scientists, people who report on animals or water quality, things like that. I'm thinking Liam is sort of a citizen historian. Are people like Liam that are dedicated to these things important to the work you do, even though maybe it's on a less professional level?
Oh my goodness. I mean, and professionalism is very high with this group.
Some words.
So, Keith, there are 191 local historical societies throughout the state of Vermont, and doing this work of local history, state history, national history on a very regular basis. And I'd say the bulk of these markers that you see are instigated by someone who's associated with a local historical society.
Not Steve Perkins walking around saying, "I decree we should put a marker here."
Never Steve Perkins walking around and saying, "I agree." I just like to visit them.
You just like to visit them. Very good. Route 15, Liam, runs east to west from Winooski to West Danville. It's designated as the GAR Highway. Why Cambridge? Why was Cambridge chosen as the place?
Cambridge is the only place along that route that has a Grand Army of the Republic monument.
Okay.
The route has been changed several times, and there's a wonderful statue to the Grand Army of the Republic in Morrisville, but Route 15 doesn't run directly through there anymore.
Okay.
So that seemed to be a logical choice, kind of midway between the two ends of Route 15.
Yeah, I would say.
And a place where people might well pull over. We had a good access to the marker itself. That's one of the factors that you have to take into account in proposing the site of a marker, is if it's on a place where people can't stop and read it, then it doesn't really serve the full purpose.
That's a great point, and that's a great spot right there in the center of Cambridge where you can pull off, as I did, to get those photos. Cambridge, like many small towns, is essentially emptied out during the Civil War. How many men from Cambridge served during the War of Rebellion, as you call it?
They sent about 300 men from the town. That's not just the village,
Sure.
but the whole town. That's out of about 800 men of all ages, from infants to old men.
Right.
So yeah, the working force was pretty well cleared out.
Yeah, Cambridge, much of Vermont, must have felt like little ghost towns, and they were smaller, obviously, than they are now, and they're pretty small. Is there a GAR highway in other states?
Yes, there's a national GAR highway that is US 6.
Okay.
Runs from New York all the way to the coast in California, through 14 states. And that was instigated in 1937, the year I was born, actually.
Don't date yourself. Don't date yourself.
It bypassed Vermont. And so the Vermont attitude is, well, we'll do it ourselves. So they created their own GAR highway. It's the only one that's not part of the national highway.
Interesting. I believe you said Route 6 runs from New York?
New York.
I think it goes a little farther east there. Having grown up in Massachusetts, Route 6 runs straight through Massachusetts from Provincetown all the way across the state. So so I think it connects it, goes from one end of the country to the other, sort of bisects the country. An amazing thing, I think, when I drive on Route 6 and in Massachusetts, I don't think of it as a GAR highway, but there it is, and it was this veterans organization.
And there are signs to that effect.
Right. You said that the Vermont General Assembly designated it in 1937,
Correct.
simply because it, was the veterans group, was the GAR behind it? Did they want to, or were they encouraging the legislature?
Yes, and the first car that drove across the Vermont GAR highway, I had 6 Union veterans in it, including the commander of the Department of Vermont of the GAR.
Wow. How did you become interested in history?
Through my work with the government to some degree, and then I'm a blow-in from Texas, so I began to explore the local history, which is fascinating.
And you've written books about Vermont Civil War history.
I'm a one-trick pony at this point in time. I did write a biography of a fellow that's buried in Burlington, an Irish-born fellow that formed an Irish company that fought at Gettysburg, and he received the Medal of Honor. Yeah.
I should also say, this isn't your first rodeo, being from Texas. You've done other historic markers throughout the state, correct?
Mostly with the Civil War, although I did put one up in Cambridge to mark the Cambridge Junction covered bridge.
We've done a lot for Cambridge in this program. I feel like the city fathers there should promote our program because they've got a bridge, they've got this marker. Steve, I'm thinking of that old saw that goes, "Those who do not remember the past are doomed to repeat it." Several variations thereof. How does a marker like this speak to that wisdom?
Well, so that wisdom is reflected even in the mission of the Vermont Historical Society,
Okay.
Where we say an understanding of the past builds better communities. That's the core of our mission. So maybe it's not repeating the past, but it's understanding what came before. It's understanding your neighbors. It's understanding the community that you live in. It builds that democracy and that ability to live and speak and work with each other. So I think that's what's really important about history. And these markers, as I said, are a piece of that because they are so hyper-local.
Something happened here.
Yes.
You should know about this thing that happened here in your neighborhood. I was thinking about how we don't have billboards in Vermont, proudly. Even the Vermont Historical Society at the in Montpelier, the Freedom and Unity exhibit. There's a lot that's there about how we do not have them. How are these markers different? I mean, it's much smaller and have a much more better purpose, but are these our billboards in some ways, like saying, hey, this is important to Vermont, we think it should be important to the people that come here?
I like to say that these signs are a linkage to our landscape and our community rather than masking our landscape and our community, which is what a billboard, in my opinion, does.
Right. We're not trying to sell anything.
Right.
We're not trying to sell anything. Liam, you continue to raise money for, you said there was a monument here at a time and that you want to improve on that monument or bring it back?
Yeah, I'm still funding for raising funds for the GAR monument needs refurbishing, things like a new flagpole and other things. So I would encourage anybody that's interested in donating to that. There's a mechanism for that.
Right, we've got a QR code and it's through Facebook. There's also a way that people can connect to that to fundraise for this effort. What's next? More monuments, more books? What do you got?
My effort these days is to establish Civil War roundtables for discussion. We're quite divided again. And 1860, it was pretty clear that the issue was slavery, and I'm trying to find one word that kind of describes the divisions today. But I'd like to raise the awareness of people of the history, the causes, the course, the consequences of the tragic War of the Rebellion, 1861 to 65.
Well said. Steve, thank you very much for being on. Liam, thank you as well. My thanks to the crew behind the scenes here at WCX. I'm Keith Silva. This is Across the Fence. Thanks for being part of our family.